This is as good as it gets. As fast as we can dig it up, iron ore, gold, nickel, you name it, we're selling it. The figures are just staggering. This mining boom's raking in $1,000 a second. And what's the secret of our success? Quite simply, China and its wild rush to capitalism. For us, it's the promised land, where the newly rich middle class numbers 250 million. That's right, 250 million, and they want to spend like mad. So what's in it for you and me? After a mind-boggling journey through China and Western Australia, the Nine Network's financial editor, Ross Greenwood, has the answer.
Never has Australia been so dirt rich. Now, more than ever, we're a nation of diggers, and it's Western Australia that's doing most of it. Last year, the state produced $39 billion worth of mineral exports. Iron ore, nickel, gold, gas, the list goes on. In WA, they're frantically turning mountains of dirt into rivers of gold. So on today's gold price of about $800 Australian an ounce, that lump of gold is worth about $320,000. It's bloody heavy. It's worth the effort, I guess.
The industry in Western Australia is generating wealth at $1,000 a second.
What's unique now is that whereas before we've had either nickel up and gold down, or gold up and nickel down, we've got a double whack at the moment. We've got nickel and gold going gangbusters with no sign that it's going to let up.
In this bull market for resources, the mining never stops, not even for Christmas Day. It's 24/7, every week of the year.
There's good money to be made in Western Australia. Everything's going off in the state.
And what brings you to this neck of the woods?
The money. Yeah. Money brings me here.
We were retrenched from a factory we were working at. There was no work in the town, so we just had to up anchor, the wife and I, and head over here.
The minerals boom has fueled waves of economic migrants. For anyone out there looking for work, Western Australia has more jobs than people to fill them. 6 years ago, Richard Day left Eden in New South Wales and headed west to the promised land.
To a place we knew nothing about in the desert from being around the coast. But I'll tell you now, it was the best move we ever did. Come into the mining industry, they welcome you, look after you, pay you well too.
In the pubs and boardrooms across the state, they're celebrating an industry that's never been in such rude health. The prices of Australian minerals are booming across the board. Take iron ore, the mineral needed to make steel. Its price has nearly doubled in just 2 years. Rio Tinto is the largest iron ore company in Australia, and its boss, Sam Walsh, says his company is digging it up and shipping it out just as fast as they can.
How good is it?
Well, the times are great. It's a very, very exciting time to be in the industry right now.
If I think of the words Perth, Western Australia and commodities, I think of only two words, and one is boom and the other one's bust.
Yeah.
This is a boom right now.
Yeah, you're right. It's very, very strong times.
So go on, give me the tip. When will prices come down?
Well, it depends from where I sit on how soon we see supply come on, because I quite frankly, I don't see the demand falling back.
This is Kalgoorlie Super Pit. It's the biggest gold mine in Australia. It runs 3.5 kilometres long, 1.5 kilometres wide. We're now standing 400 metres below the surface. And it's royalties coming out of holes in the ground like this one that are right now paying you your tax cuts. The Treasurer, of course, would say it's all about strong economic management. But the truth is all about another incredible economic boom, the boom in China.
I think for us, you've got to look at a business that was running at around 50 million tonnes sort of 5 years ago. We're now running at 3 times that rate, and we can't keep up.
I can't see 50 million tonnes. What does 150 million tonnes look like?
Well, if you look at an average ship, you're talking at around 200,000 tonnes. So you're seeing one hell of a lot of ships all heading north to China.
There's a saying in the business world that if you're not in Shanghai, you're camping out. This place is literally bursting out of its skin. China, a country famous for Chairman Mao's long march to communism, is now in a headlong sprint to capitalism. Now, most Australians have never visited China, so most people have got absolutely no idea just how big this boom is. Now, take the example of Shanghai. It's got a population of 20 million. That's the same as Australia. But every day here, 2 new high-rise buildings are completed. Every week, 1,000 new cars hit the road. They've even overtaken Americans as the world's biggest beer drinkers. But then stop and think to yourself, this is a communist country, and I can tell you, it feels nothing like it.
So now the headache for our people, think about, what kind of area we should invest? Go buy stock or go buy a house or go buy a car? They have to think about how to invest rather than think about how to survive. This is the big changes.
Adrian Wang is the personification of the new China. When he was a boy, there was barely enough food to go around. Not now. Today, the problem is what to do with the spare cash.
You didn't have those problems when you were a kid and you were running around with not enough clothes.
It's not in my consideration, that headache, I'm still struggling for more money. Please give me more money. I want this headache. A lot of Chinese people say, I want this headache.
Today his client is Mr. Lu, the largest ice cream cone manufacturer in China. He churns out 1 billion cones a year and needs a bigger factory. Adrian's the man for the job. His business is knocking out prefabricated steel factories. Think Lego on a huge scale. All over China, paddocks are being transformed in a time frame that's unimaginable in Australia.
He's building roughly about 26,000 square meter. And we took about 4.5 months. We can finish all the job.
4.5 months isn't very long. I mean, you're whacking these buildings up pretty quickly.
I think it's quite normal.
China is in business. The people in China are eager for business. The people in China are eager for investment. They really wanted us here. There is not any of this not in my backyard mentality in China.
Kirby Adams is boss of Australia's largest steelmaker, BlueScope. Adams felt his company must tap directly into China's boom if it was to survive and prosper. They now have 7 plants here.
It was only 15 years ago that China was not even in the top 10 of steel producers in the world. The production and the consumption of steel in China now exceeds that of the United States, plus Japan, plus Korea, plus Germany.
Is it sustainable?
Ross, I think if we rewound the clock back to the 19th century, there were probably a number of people sitting in the old world in Europe looking across the Atlantic at these emerging colonies called the United States and thinking, this is simply not going to last. And I think we just have to have that same kind of historic perspective on China. There are 1 billion people here seeking a better standard of life.
That's why every major label, every large company wants a toehold. Economically, the 21st century belongs to China. The scale of construction is hard to fathom unless you come here, and it's the reason the value of Aussie minerals has gone through the roof. Welcome to the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games. Right now, across China, 5 stadiums just like this are springing up out of the ground. But before an event's even been run, Australia has already won gold. Well, actually, not quite gold, more like iron ore. Because you see, more than half of the steel in this incredible structure is made from that red dirt we saw back in the Pilbara.
But it's 140 million tonnes of dirt. Without being rude, I mean, the process is dig it up, grind it out, stick it on a train, stick it on a boat, ship it out of the country.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that's what export is all about.
So the risk of sending dirt overseas is less than the risk of sending steel overseas.
Yeah, sure. One needs to produce where you know you're going to be competitive.
Over the lifetime of the West Angelas mine in the Pilbara, Rio Tinto will pull out 450 million tonnes of iron ore. It's a hell of a lot of dirt. But it's these basic raw materials that countries like China want more than anything else, which is why new mines are springing up all over the state.
Well, it is really a moment in time for this state. It's a generational opportunity, and we haven't really seen anything like this. The closest we've probably got to was the end of the 60s and the early 70s. But
Tim Shanahan from the West Australian Chamber of Minerals and Energy points to one of the richest board games in the world. The state has another $60 billion worth of mining projects in the pipeline.
Western Australia is now contributing about 30% of the total export wealth for the nation, and that's really flowing through into...
Yeah, right, you can stop rubbing it in now. It's okay. We know, we get the message.
It's a pretty good time to be a Western Australian, and we're really fighting out of our weight class in terms of the contribution we're making.
On the back of the boom, the price of real estate in Perth is soaring. 24% last year, the fastest of any capital city. But it's not just in Perth. House prices in towns like Kalgoorlie have risen even more.
Houses get sold before they get put on the market because there's a business where people find out somebody's leaving, so they go and put an offer on their house.
And what are the prices now?
Oh, they've just gone through the roof. A lot of property changes hands for more than $1 million.
Yeah. Doug Dawes is a Kalgoorlie boy born and bred, but it's another piece of property that's got him really excited. This is the old Poseidon nickel mine. Back in 1969, the shares in Poseidon shot to $280 when they discovered nickel right here.
We didn't really understand what was going on. All these four-wheel drives appeared. I was with Western Mining at the time, in their drawing office, and look, it was just bloody exciting. There was laboratories sprung up. You couldn't buy houses, a bit like it is now.
How did it become so derelict?
Oh, well, the nickel prices went down. Western Mining, who had it at the time, decided that they had other better priorities. They shut the nickel mine down and literally walked away.
They walked away, but now you've come in and bought it on the cheap, haven't you?
Oh, we like to think we have.
How much?
We paid $8 million
$8 million what, for all this?
Yeah. There's some remnant ore.
Doug is now chairman of Niagara Mining, and he knows that with today's booming price of nickel, he's got himself a bargain. There's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of mineral down below.
We all knew that they left behind significant resources in the ground. At the time they were reserves, but we can't call them reserve. We've got to go back and re-justify the reserve category. But there's no worries. We're going to make a shitload of money out of it.
While the price of minerals remains high, Australia's happy to be the world's quarry. But whether that guarantees our long-term prosperity is debatable. The most frightening prospect for all of us is if China's runaway economy goes off the rails.
Well, for every boom, there's a bust.
Of course.
I think what we're seeing here is a fundamental demand that's been driven by China. It's a demand that we see as sustainable across the next decade.
We are very lucky in Australia that our natural resources and steel and other materials are in such high demand here.
In other words, we fluked it again.
Well, we're the lucky country, Ross.
Is it as good as it's ever been?
It's probably better than it's ever been. It's as good as it gets.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.